lightweight champion of the world, here at Caesars Palace, is Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
Shut down, right. So everything shut down. My financing got held up and so on. So now we're back and we're putting a couple of films in production. Hopefully we're supposed to start in July. Pre-production, start shooting in August, early September, and then next spring. I mean, right, back to back.
Right. Awesome. Ray, I'd like to just, if you would indulge me, to go back in your career. Like I said, I remember just about every fight that was televised on CBS where I was. And I remember you when you fought Alexis Arguello. And and at that time you wanted to win the title for your dad. Tell the fans a little bit about that, those that don't know that backstory.
Well, my father was the #1 contender in the world, 1941 through 1942. He was signed to fight for the world title in February of 42 and got drafted in January of 42. And he said, "Look, I want to defend my country. I just want an opportunity to fight for the title." They said, "No, we want you now." And he offered his entire purse to the Army Relief Fund, which at that time was crying for money. They said, "We don't want your money, we want you." Wow. So anyhow, I always had my father went in, got shot up in the Battle of Metz. He was a frontline infantryman. No, you and the enemy, right? Nobody in between.
Right.
And he got shut up in the Battle of Metz. Other than the Battle of the Bulge, the Battle of Metz, France was the most destructive war in the European theater of operation. So he got hit with a mortar shell and he got wounded pretty badly, and left for dead at first. And finally, one of his comrades picked him up and carried him back to the base. Make a long story short, he was in a hospital for over a year and a half. When he got out, doctor said he would never, when he was in the hospital, doctor said he would never live because he lost so much blood, but he got through that. Then they said he would never walk because there was too much shrapnel in his body. Eventually, he came back able to walk. They said certainly he'll never fight again. He eventually came back to fight. But my father went in #1 lightweight contender and he came out middleweight. Now, on a 5'2" frame, that's a little tough, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing I'm proud of, and I always heard about how my father would have been world champion if it wasn't for the war, which he never talked about it. He was very proud to defend his country. Sure. But anyhow, so since I was a little boy, I always said, I'm going to win that world title for my father. So when people said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "I want to be a fighter and a world champion for my father." Right. How cute that was. A little boy wants to be a fighter for his father, all that kind of stuff. Right. But it was the truth. That's all I wanted. So that was everything for me. And so when I was finally able to accomplish that, it was a lifelong dream. And we just all of us celebrated together. It was very emotional because people often said to me, if it wasn't for boxing, if you weren't a fighter, what else would you have done? I said, I can't answer that. Because that's all. I never want to be anything else. Really? So people say, young kids say, I want to be a fireman, a policeman. I said, I want to be a fighter. Right. And so I like to think I've been successful. I like to think I was a pretty good student. I was, a pretty good student, and I think whatever I've done, I would have been successful. That's the ego part of me.
Right.
But I don't. But there's nothing else I knew I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And so I've been very fortunate that I was able to live out that dream.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So.
I remember watching that fight, and I remember after that fight, you came up short. And Alexis Arguello, a champion like yourself, in and outside the ring, went to you, and where your dad was in the ring, and he said, "Listen, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know, and you're going to be a champion one day." He saw what was inside of you. And I like to let the fans know, if you ever get a chance to YouTube any of Ray Boom Boom Mancini's fights, you see guys getting up off the stool very slow. I noticed, Ray, in all your fights, you ran to your opponent to meet them every single round.
Well, that was kind of one of my things. I I did that since I was in amateurs. But also, I mean, my father used to tell me the stories about his career. And he told when Ray Arcel was his trainer, the great Ray Arcel was his trainer. And my father was sitting, and Ray would like kind of, and he'd run out there, and he'd run out there. And I used to tell me that in my head, so I said, I'm going to be that. I want to do that, just like my father. I want to be him. So bell rang, jumped off the stool, and ran out there. And plus, I think a couple of things, against me, got me fired right back into the fight mode real quick. Mm-hmm. And second of all, it's a psychological thing for your opponent to see a guy running across the ring. No matter what you did to round before, how many punches he thought he gave me or I took, to see me coming right back at him, it breaks the guy down.
And I was thinking about that. I was like, psychologically, because as well as I do, this sport is what I like to say, 90% mental and 10% physical. And when you've just been bombarded with a bunch of punches, and the next round comes, and the guy seeing you that maybe was on the receiving end of the punches running out to him, that's gotta play a crucial part in his mind and saying, man, I've hit this guy with everything I had and he's still coming. What can I do now?
Yeah, exactly, Dale. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, but you don't think, I'm going to save the guy out. It's just, that's part of your makeup. That's part of who you are. And I did that every fight. And like I said, I did it in amateurs too, Right. But I think part of it is to get me, boom, get my head right back into the game, right back into the fight. You put your mind, bell ring. It's just, you got to be focused. You're only in the ring for X amount of time. Right. It could be anywhere from 3 minutes to 45 minutes. Depending on that was almost 15 rounds.
Right. Which I think for championship fights alone, I think they should reinstate 15 rounds. I just think,
of course.
A lot of exactly. A lot of fighters right now, I'm not taking away from anybody. I think that if they had to do gut check time, when they hear that 15th round or that 14th round bell, it definitely is going to separate the ones that want it and the ones that just want to fight for it.
Well, Dale, you just said it. You just said it. I say the same thing. I'm not going to knock the fighters nowadays because it ain't their fault.
Right.
God bless them. But a lot of them, we'd like to think they can go 15. Right. But we don't know.
Right, exactly.
We don't know, they never had to.
Right.
They never had to.
Exactly.
And, the last 3 rounds are known as the dog rounds because that's the fight that you got to, that turns you into a dog or not.
Gut check time. Exactly.
That's
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So a lot of guys, you say, well, yeah, he could have won 15. We don't know. And I tell people this all the time. The history of boxing would be changed if it wasn't for 15 rounds. For instance, 1937, when Joe Louis knocked out Billy Conn.
That's
Billy
right.
Conn was slapping Joe Louis around for 12 rounds.
That's right. He was beating him. Yep.
Knocked him out in the 13th round.
Yep.
Rocky Marciano against Joe Walcott. Walcott's ahead on all the cards.
Right.
Went into the 13th round.
Right.
Rocky Marciano. Ray Leonard's way, way behind Tommy Hearns going into the 14th round.
Right. Exactly.
Fight. And if it ain't going 12, Ray loses.
Right.
So, and according to that, I'm undefeated because I was beating Aguayo after 12, and I was beating Bramble after 12.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
I'm undefeated according to that, right? So, that's a true championship distance, and it's a TV decision, never a medical decision, never. Right. People try to say for health reasons. Matter of fact, the statistics show there's been more fatalities and injuries in boxing from the time that they shortened it to 12 rounds than the 50 years previous.
That's right. That's right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Amazing.
So the 20-something years that they went to 12 rounds. So. It's an interesting dynamic, but anyhow, great sport. Just a lot of good fighters, but 15 rounds, man, changed the game, man, changed the game.
Exactly. So, getting back to your fights, you turn around and you come back and you fight Art Frias for the title, and you stopped him in the first round. Yeah. What was going through your mind? During that fight, or were you in it? Were you thinking maybe it was going to go to distance, or had you determined that you were going to take care of business?
Well, first of all, after the Aguayo fight, I knew after that fight, I said, I'm going to be a champion. Because I knew I had what it what it took to be champion. I was fighting one of the greatest fighters of all time. The experience went out. Alexis was such a great fighter, which is difficult to do nowadays. What Alexis would do is he'd take you in the later rounds.
Yeah.
And then what I tell you, what he'd do is he would set traps early in the fight.
Right.
And he'd go back later in the fight, see if the trap's caught. But now, but with 12 rounds, it's difficult to do that, obviously.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, the experience is, and later on, experience, I realized watching the tape, he was separating himself. It's creating distance. First, I was on his chest little by little, I seen where he was creating distance. And that's when he caught me.
Right.
And so, but I knew the experience I gained in that fight would carry me. And when I was going against Art, no knock on Art. Art was a hell of a fighter.
Right.
He beat Claude Noel, knocked Claude Noel out. Claude Noel was a hell of a champion.
Right.
Art Frias knocked him out. And it was a different type of fight. It was an aggressive style. We were going to meet in the center ring. We know the style. But I just felt in my heart I was stronger than him. And I felt I hit harder. And I just felt after the experience I gained from the Guerrero fight that I was going to beat him no matter. I was going to win. I was just so confident.
Right.
But what happens is the fight starts. In the first 15 seconds, he catches me with a left hook. Hurts me. Knocks me back. And I'm stunned. And my trainer, Murphy Griffith, taught me one of two things. When you're hurt, one of two things. You either cover up or you fire back.
Right.
I chose to fire back.
Right.
And I just, and I wasn't still, people said, what were you thinking during the time? I was just trying to get to the end of the round. I was just trying to make it to the next round.
Right.
Because then you can start over again. You know what I mean?
Right,
Each round is a separate battle.
Right.
And that's I started from second round on, just trying to make it through the round. But then I just happened to keep firing back, and then I caught him with a shot, staggered him, jumped on him, and then I dropped him. Right. Oh man! So that was like I was like a shark smelling blood then.
Right.
Didn't jump on him, and it just was very fortunate that the referee Richard Green stopped the fight when he did. There was only a couple seconds left in the round. That
was amazing. I remember that fight. I was cheering too, like I was there. But I was watching you at the time, like I said, on CBS Sports, and it was epic. You turned around, Ray, and you beat Ernesto Espinoza. Espana. I'm sorry about that. Espana. My Espanol is no bueno.
No bueno. Hey, you're down in Miami now, in the Florida, close to Miami. You better get and I heard the gentleman you talked to must be your coordinator, your director, your producer. I heard the accent. Is it my friend? Is it Cubano? No? Is it Cubanito?
Yeah.
Primo. Mi hijo es cubano. Mi primera esposa es cubana.
Oh, listen to you.
So I know Miami.
Oh, okay. Well, I always come back with this. Me llama Dale. Hablo poquito español. No sé mucho. Muy
Dale, because that's what my kids say. Dale. That's funny.
Oh, man.
Real fast. We're going to get back to it, but real fast. Okay. What is your producer's name?
His name is Jay. His name is Jay. Yeah.
Every time I come to Miami, I start talking like Tony Montana. I get off the plane. They go, oye, chico, ¿cómo está? No, man, yo soy italiano, man. Oye, man.
Oh, we got to hang out, right? We have got to hang out.
I got Tony Montana. Don't you know? And my ex-wife said to me, Raymond, that's not very funny. I said, it is funny. It is funny. All the primos, they got to get that.
That is too funny. Oh, my goodness. Ray,
Ernesto España.
España. Okay. And you beat him. And then you turn around, and I think you fought Camacho.
No,
I'm sorry.
No. Camacho was at the end of my career.
Okay, at the end of my career. Okay.
No, they had been talking about me fighting Camacho at that time.
Right.
It never materialized for whatever reason.
Yeah.
España was my first title defense.
Right.
And then the second title defense was against, my Korean opponent.
Right. And I'm going to say this with all the tact that I can. Ray, it's going to be a little lightheartedness, but at the same time, it's going to be very heartfelt. I was supposed to be in church that day when you fought Dooku Kim, but I snuck out of church to watch you fight Dooku Kim. And I turned around, and as I was watching the fight, and anybody that's been in the fight game knows the way these two guys are fighting, somebody's never going to be the same again. And I say that because, you know, you fight fights like that, sometimes you take 2 or 3 fights out of you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying this with all the sympathy and empathy I can. And I'm saying it to the point, you know, after, you know, what happened to Dooku Kim, I'm glad it wasn't you. And I'm not saying that because there's no heartfelt condolences to him, because I could never imagine. But me watching you as a kid growing up, it's like I knew you. You understand what I'm saying? I knew you, but you know, it was an unfortunate event, and I just couldn't, you know, you couldn't even imagine the magnitude of that, you know, happening, and I remember that, man.
The lead up to that fight, my manager sent me at that time, it was a video, right, the DVD of his fights. They were talking about my next opponent, and you know, one thing I'm proud of throughout my career, I had 5 title defenses, and out of 5 titles, I fought 4 the number one contender.
Right.
I'm very proud of that. A lot of guys ain't doing it, but I'm very proud of that.
Right.
So Spanier was number 1, and this guy comes, he's number 1.
Right.
And you know, I don't even question how people get there. They get there. You know, people have to earn it some way.
Right.
And my manager sent me a videotape. I put it in. I watched a round and a half, not even 2 rounds. I took it out. I said, okay. And my manager was David Wolf, and I said, Dave, okay, you know, let's make the fight. And you know, I said, it's going to be a war. I know what I'm in against. And you know, you just have to watch your opponent to know that my style fighting. Look, I'm coming forward. I'm gonna, you know, take some to give some.
Right.
But that's my style. He was the same type of style, and relentless.
Yeah.
So you know it's gonna be a war. And I was just always hoping that you pray and hope that I felt I was stronger than most of my opponents, and I felt that I was a better boxer than people gave me credit for, or thought I was, and hopefully my opponents didn't know.
Right.
So, but we prepared. You know, you got to go in. You know, you're going to go in a war. You know, it's going to be a war.
Sure.
There's no other way it could happen, and you prepare that way, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually.
Right.
And we went to Palm Springs, and crazy thing is, I shared a training camp with Alexis Arguello.
Wow.
Arguello, we were sharing at the same hotel, and he was preparing for Aaron Pryor for the first fight, and in Miami in the Orange Bowl, and I was fighting Kim. We fought the day after, and I know it was a great training camp. And then, of course, we flew up to Vegas, and I was in great shape, felt great, and then you know, this was going to be the first fight at the permanent outdoor facility at Caesar's Palace. Right. What I mean by that is, before that, whenever there was a big fight, Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Sherry Cooney, and Larry Holmes, they built a facility outdoor in the parking lot, but then they tear it down. Right. This was the first permanent outdoor facility. Right. So all the literati were going to be there. Frank Sinatra was there. Yeah. Bill Cosby was there. Lou Rawls, Robert Goulet, George Brett, Willie Stargell, you know, from the sport, Leroy Neiman, you know, people from the sports, all the sports entertainment, you know, and world, and so it was a big thing, and nobody knew of my opponent, but he was Korean, and so the large Korean community came from Los Angeles and San Francisco, came down. So I think we had about 12,000 people. I think it was a 16,000 seat facility, about 12,000. Yeah. And that, you know, and a lot of them were Kim enthusiasts. Right. So anyhow, we were in the dressing room. You know, I was in the dressing room for the fight, and Dave, you know, he's on the next, like on the other side. They have like a big partition. Sure. He's on one side, I'm on the other side. We're warming up. And all of a sudden we hear, bang, bang, and all of a sudden, like the rattle of the lockers are being, you know, shaking, and all these big bangs, and it was stops, and I'm getting rid of them shadow boxes, and I kind of stop and look at my guys, and I go, well, I guess we're in for a tough one today. You guys just say something lighthearted,
Right.
but in your mind what you're going in against.
Right, exactly.
So come out, and I'll never forget. It was it was a sunny day, but it was November 13th, so it was like a brisk day, and good fight, good fight weather, because they'll take you much to warm up quick, and I'm the first bell rings, first punch he runs over and hits me with a straight left hand. First punch hits me. It's on. It's done. And then from that point on, it was a war. It was just a war. It was a war of attrition.
Yeah.
And I felt, a lot of people said it was a very close fight. I know the rounds were close, but I felt as the rounds were going on, I was
getting
starting
stronger.
to control the fight.
Yeah.
I started controlling the fight a little bit. But he kept catching me, and I tell people this, and I don't like to admit this, but I said I never thought of quitting in any fight. This is the only fight I ever thought of quitting in my corner because my head was hurting so bad. My body was aching so bad during the fight. Sure. Usually it happens after a fight.
Right,
But this was during the fight.
Yeah.
And after so I started the 13th round. I go out there and I catch him and I hit him with a shot. That throws about 47 unanswered punches, but I'm missing him. He's still bobbing and weaving. I'm catching him, but he's bobbing and weaving.
Wow.
And after about minute of throwing punches, now I'm dead. He comes right back, bang, bang, bang. He's got me backing up, and I'm trying to tie him up. It's just your mind is just unbelievable because. A lot of people, they thought they should stop the referee should stop the fight. So how could they stop the fight when the guy's bobbing and weaving?
Right.
The guy's not against ropes to be stopped.
Right.
Bobbing and weaving.
Right.
And
He's
then he
still
comes
conscious.
back the way he did.
Yeah.
The way he comes back. So, and then of course the 14th round happened and I stopped him. Mm-hmm. We're celebrating. It's a great victory. Wow. And I tell people, if what happened didn't happen, that would be one of the fights you see on ESPN all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now I'm going to tell you a little side story that's kind of it's like weird, but it's you got to tell because it's funny now.
Right.
During the fight, sometimes my body was hurting. Sometimes in the fight, you come back to your corner, you think you see things you don't.
Right.
Not that you're hallucinating, but things are happening. So after the fight, I asked my assistant trainer, Chuck Fagan. I said, Chuck, I gotta know, was I hallucinating or what? Or was Bill Cosby in our corner? He said, oh yeah. During the fight, Bill Cosby come in the corner and he told my guy, he said, he told me with that fat elbow voice talking about me. Will you tell that boy to move his head? Talking about me. Tell that boy to move his head. And he said, no, yeah, get the hell out of here. They pushed the body. You're going to fight this guy. And he's coming in.
Oh my goodness.
It's bizarre. And I remember that. By then, it's all over news. It's national news. And I'm at the airport when I arrive on Monday morning, and we arrive in Cleveland, and sure enough, the newspapers are there, and the TV stations are there. They give me up. They want to interview. They get me right off, take me, get me in a car, go home. So that whole week it was all over the news, and then I guess the thing, I stayed home. I didn't want to go nowhere. Obviously, I didn't want to be out in public. I felt out of disrespect to him, but the thing that bothered me most, it was all over the national news, and then you got the North American or North American Ecumenical Society coming out. Mancini saying he's a good Catholic Christian boy when he's going in a sport like this, and he's trying to hurt other people. It's the most non-Christian thing that could happen or you can do. I mean, it was all kinds of stuff like this. Sure. It was all over the nighttime news. It was just. I was getting calls and interview requests from overseas for papers from around the world. It was just overwhelming.
Wow. And
local coverage from Good Morning America, Today's Show, all that stuff. So I just never had experienced anything that way and experienced anything like that. And one day going as a guy who's a proud champion and trying to defend the country defend the title
Right.
for his family, his city, sport of boxing. Now I become the poster boy for everything that's wrong with boxing.
I remember that too, Ray. I mean, it was. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, please.
the unintentional backlash that you received from that. I mean, it was, when they mention your name, oh, that's Ray Boom Boom Mancini. He killed a man in the ring. No, and I would always become the advocate or the defense attorney, playing lawyer for you, saying, no, these were two men that were doing their job, and unfortunately, one succumbed to their injuries. I said it could, like I said before, it could have, God forbid, it could have happened either way. But I'm glad it wasn't you, because we knew you.
I appreciate that. Well, Del, that was one of the things that bothered me the most.
Sure.
And I said this repeatedly. I think one of the things that bothered me the most was why him and not me.
Right.
And who could say it wouldn't be me next time? Because my style of fighting is not going to change.
Right.
So that's why So during that time, I went into seclusion. I fell. I'm gonna say fell. Yeah, people say, oh, you went into a deep depression. I was depressed because of the events. Not that I couldn't get out of it.
Right.
I mean, I'm fortunate. I rely on my faith. I said my prayers, and I made my peace with God, and I made peace with it.
Right.
And I tried to move forward.
Right.
I wasn't like I was going to take the bridge or
Sure.
bang the bottle or anything.
Right.
But here's the thing. I sat with Father Tim O'Neill, who was one of my teachers in high school, one of my dearest friends, went to all my fights, come in the dressing room. Him and my father were the two people I wanted in there, and he did it right for they'd go out before they give it a 10-minute countdown.
Right.
He'd take my father and he'd give me a blessing.
Right.
And it was always felt give me a sense of strength, sense of comfort,
Right.
So I sat with Father O'Neill, and kind of what you said. He said, Ray, I was going through a very tumultuous time. He said, look, Ray, he said, I can't make the decision what you're going to do. Only you can make that decision. Mm-hmm. He said, but as someone who's a friend who loves you, I'm telling you, if you ask me, I believe God wants to see you fight again. He says, because you give hope for this town. You give hope. God gave you the ability to win this title.
Right.
Your life's clear. God gave you a special talent.
Right.
Now, I think if you stop fighting, you'd be denying God his gift to you. Right. He said, you have to understand. He said, we don't understand everything that goes on. We just trust God that somewhere down the road we'll have an understanding.
Right.
But it's in God's plan for whatever reason. But he said, look, it's like the guy driving down the street. Young child runs up behind a car. Right. It hits the child dies. Was that his intention? Of course not.
Right, exactly.
It happened? Exactly. Yes. He said, but it was not his intention. Right. Here, you have to understand, it's what the intent was.
Right, exactly.
It was not your intention.
Exactly.
So what you were saying, Jeff.
Right.
So it kind of gave me some kind of comfort. But, people, wasn't even so, people would say some stupid and cruel things, man.
Oh, yeah.
Be stupid without even thinking.
Right, exactly.
They know they want to get the reaction. They know they're going to try. They're saying what they're saying is they shouldn't be saying. They know this.
Oh, yeah.
But they're looking to get the reaction.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
But I'll tell you, one thing that hurt me the most was I was at one of my nephew's football games, and a little boy, 10, 11, 12 years old, come up to me and said, Mr. Mancini. And he said, you know who I am? I said, I'm Duke Who Kim's son. I looked at this kid and said, where's your father? I'm going to beat his ass. These are the things I couldn't believe.
Right. People, they say true character is formed through adversity. And saying that to you suffered triumph, tragedy, and then once again you're back up on top. To quote Dr. King, he said this: the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfortability and convenience, but when he is tested through challenges and controversy, and which you've shown. And that wasn't, although it was a horrific thing that happened, I'm glad you didn't let the talent that God gave you go to waste, and you still entertain the fans, and
thank you.
You're just awesome.
And people say, how did you get through? How did you get through? I said, power of prayer. That's the only way to do anything.
Exactly. I've heard it. That's right. Me too.
My faith carried me through that. My faith. As a houseman, I relied on my faith because I said my prayers, and you ask God, you trust God to guide you.
Right.
And
Exactly.
finally put it in my heart that the hunger still to still fight.
Good.
Now, it's funny because I wasn't going to fight any different,
Right.
but I tell people though, at that point, before I fought for righteous reasons, to be world champion for my father, to be the best fighter for my city of Youngstown. And I said, but after that fight, there was nothing righteous about it. There was nothing beautiful about it for me.
Right. Right.
The beautiful sport before that. Nothing
Right.
beautiful then.
Right.
Then it became a business.
Right.
Now it became business. It was strictly business. And I was just trying to gain my security.
Right.
And I was looking for the door after. I started looking for the door then.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, because after an event, a tragic event of that magnitude, and once again, all your fights, I've known you've always came in peak physical condition.
Yeah.
Was the mental aspect of your game, was it still there? Sometimes fighters get hurt and they fight off an instinct, but you can be 89.9% mentally right, or mentality, but not just like the love of it, the what drove you to win the title. Was it still that drive after the that fight?
Well, Del, naturally, I'm going to say, yeah, I believe, because I made peace with it. And I said, if I'm going to move forward, I have to fight the same way. Mm-hmm. But I've heard this repeatedly from people on that. It's always, and I got to trust them. When you're inside the bubble, you don't see that. You're on the inside looking out. Exactly. When you have people on the outside looking in, I've had my cornerman, Chuck Fagan, said, Raymond, he said, I was never the same. I said, Chuck, I fought the same. I stopped guys. I knocked guys out. Right. It didn't keep me when I had them hurt, jumping on them and keep going. He said, yeah, but the difference wasn't in the fight so much as it was in training camp. He said, before, I loved the physical challenges that Griff gave me. I loved it. He challenged me. Right. And Chuck said, before I would do things, never question, just do. Now I was questioning, why do I got to do that? Well, I don't remember particularly if but these guys do, and he said I would do things begrudgingly as opposed to before enthusiastically. Right. So he said that's when he noticed a difference. That's when he knows I changed. Right. He said, you don't fight so much different. A lot of people say, oh, you got hurt, you backed. I didn't back off anybody. I had Bobby Chacon, I kept him on the road. Yeah. I didn't back off. Wow. Bob Arum said, Bob Arum promoted most of my fights, said I wasn't the same aggressive, guns blazing at all costs type of fight after that. Right. Well, first, my answer is I don't know how you could be. Right. And second of all, I don't know what that means because I still came forward. But again, that's me talking as a person. So I trust people's viewpoints from the outside looking in. Right. Yeah. I do. Right. I just, you don't see it when it's yourself. I don't. Right. Again, I thought I fought the same. Right. But Bob Arum said one thing, but this is valid. Mm-hmm. He said I didn't fight with the same enthusiasm. That's valid. Yeah. That's valid. Yeah.
Well, like you said, Ray, it's just like you're in when you're competing against an opponent, and you're engaged in war, and sometimes you can be in the heat of the battle and not see it. But once you go back to the corner, you have the guys on the outside looking in, saying, "Listen, every time this guy throws a right hand, he's not bringing it straight back. Run your left hook." So I see where they made those assessments and stuff like that. You turned around and, like you said, you fought Bobby Chacon. Once again, I was watching it. You fought Livingston Bramble twice, and at that time, I not so much a disdain for Livingston Bramble, but there are times when there's one thing about psychological warfare, and there's other times when things a fighter can say to another fighter that are just malicious, and I don't think he was. The things he was saying during that first fight and during the first press conferences wasn't warranted. That was going somewhere where he really shouldn't have gone. Because he was not only just dealing with your emotions and stuff like that, but he had to remember Dooku Kim still had parents and brother and stuff like that. So and once again I remember that fight, and. You came up short on that one. The second fight, I thought that you gave a great account of yourself, I thought you won the fight. My personal opinion.
And I did too, John. I appreciate that. No, first fight. Going back to the first fight, it's funny you said that. The press conference for the first fight, we're there. He's doing. And I tell you, Bramble's going to be Bramble, but that's because I get him.
Right.
As a fighter, but his manager, Duvas and stuff, Duva, at some point they could tell the fighter to pull back. Yeah. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that would have helped, but they could have.
Right, sure.
I think they encouraged the person.
Sure.
And after I said that he got in my head, he said he didn't in my head. He said some stupid stuff. That's it.
Right.
In fact, we were doing you do the pose against against each other. You pose. It wasn't a stare down. We didn't do the stare. Thank God, because I wouldn't have done that.
Right.
I don't want to look at my. Come on, man.
Right.
Stuff can happen.
Right.
But we're doing a pose. He's posing. We're next to each other, posing for the pictures, and he's over there and he's making comments. And he's come, and finally I looked up and I swung at him, and he fell back. And I hit him like in the shoulder or something. I hit him in the chin or in the face. And afterwards, people got in between. My manager, Dave, was, "What's the matter with you? You hit him, you cut him, the fight's off, you burnt your hand. You do, what's the matter?" And you don't think that way,
right,
of course.
Sure.
But comments made, I just don't shut up. Yeah, and I swung at him. Right. But, now, and then he beat me that fight. He won the fight. Right. He clearly won the fight. Right. But I didn't feel I was at my best. I felt I wasn't at my best. I felt he was at his best. Let's run it back. Run it back.
Sure.
Now, and it's funny because, and then the second fight, so I thought it was a good fight. It was a terrific fight.
Oh, great fight.
He fought a terrific fight. For every one fighter, there's another fighter that's going to give you problems, right?
Sure.
Always that one. Yeah. 10 out of 10 times, we're going to fight the same type of fight.
Sure, absolutely.
And I actually thought I pulled out. I thought I won that fight.
I thought you won that fight, too. I think, matter of fact, I don't think he was as active as his punch output. I don't think his punch output was as amount that went forth as he did in the first fight. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of it, I think you stayed close to his chest. And, I think you as a challenger, took the fight to him and began to, shut him down. I think at one point he just went into, I'm the champion. I can just, I'll get the nod or a couple of judges because I am the champion and just hold my own. I don't want to engage in him. What I also liked, and we talked about it earlier, the type of guy Alexis Arguello was, he was actually in your corner on the side telling your people. And I was like, man, that exemplifies class right there, And he was there.
But I got to tell this, to Bramble's, for Bramble. Well, first, one more two things. So after the fight in Buffalo, he did apologize to my family. He said, "Look, I didn't mean nothing. I was just trying to get, psychological warfare.
Exactly.
I get it. But I get it. I understand. Yeah. The second fight, same thing. We had a great fight. Very complimentary. Right. And when they did the documentary, because Mark Kriegel, or the book, Mark Kriegel wrote the book. He said Bramble was very complimentary. I said, I appreciate that. Right. Well, we ran into each other a couple years ago at an event in New York. I had seen him since the fight. Right. I heard he was living in Vegas and stuff. And when he saw each other, we went up, we hugged each other. He said, "Ray, I'm so happy we can meet as friends instead of as adversaries." Sure. And he said, "I'm so," and he said, "Look, I apologize." I said, "No." I said, "You don't have to apologize no more. You did. It's over. It's squashed. Everything's squashed." And he was good. He's actually a good guy. Yeah. But but I understand. And at that time, look, that's psychological warfare.
Sure,
I understand that. And so I have no animosity.
Right.
And he apologized for things afterwards. So, look, people didn't know there was such a term. I never knew psychological warfare until Ali started it, right?
Right, exactly.
Ali was the first one I knew. No, I know.
That's right.
And he said a lot of mean things about Joe Frazier that or hurt Joe. And I'll tell you, Del, later on in life, I got to be good friends with both. I got to spend time with Muhammad too. His lawyer was a good friend of mine. So Muhammad, we'd have private. I got a chance to have private dinners with him and stuff, and we see each other. And he was wonderful, man. He was, but I saw the decline, Yeah. And the last time I tell people, I saw him, where he was actually coherent and he, able to. I was at an event. He gave me a hug. And he gave me a hug, and he whispered in my ear, "Stay pretty, stay pretty." Now it was beautiful, man, and I'll remember that always. And that's the truth. Last time, you can't make that up.
No,
and I always remember that, man. And he was beautiful, man. He was beautiful. So, but the people, I look. So I always tell them, when I first met him, I told him, I said, "Muhammad, I got to be honest with you. I was a smoking Joe fan. Joe's my guy. He was smoking Joe Frazier. I can't beat you. He was good." And then later on, I got to be good friends with Smoke, right? And we do events together, right?
Yeah.
We do events, but there'd be 20 of us: Smoke, Ollie, Kenny Norton, Larry Holmes, Aaron Pryor, Hector Camacho, Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, right? And Smoke had a lot of animosity towards me.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Smoke would say, hey, boom, look at the butterfly, He ain't floating no more, is he? He ain't floating no more, is he? He said, I like to think I had something to do with that.
Wow.
I said, oh, Smoke. I said, Smoke, you gotta let it go. Yeah, you're right, boom, you're right. I gotta let it go.
Wow.
Yeah, but you can't think you're God. He thinks he's God. You can't. God punishing his ass. God's punishing his ass.
Wow.
I said, gee, and then and then one knows that, and then Joe eventually, before they both passed, they made amends.
Yeah, good.
And it's just like, wow, man, I hurt for Smoke, man. I hurt for him because I loved Smoke, man.
Oh, yeah.
He was a good guy. He was a wonderful guy, just a wonderful guy. He's my guy, But it's just, I felt bad they kept that all those years. He kept that animosity. It's hard.
That's bad.
Hard way to live.
Oh yeah. Because eventually, I tell people, I say, listen, you hating someone is the equivalent of you drinking poison and waiting for them to die.
That's right. That's good. That's good.
So.
That's a good way to say it.
But Chad, we getting ready to wrap it up. Just two more things I want to talk about. You've made my day. You went on to fight after Bramble's second fight. You went on to fight Hector, which I thought you beat that fight too. I think you beat that fight. You guys were supposed to run it back. I think that was more lip service from Hector. He didn't want to run it back. No. And then you. Go ahead,
I'll tell you, Del, real fast. The fight should have happened when we first talked about. We had talked about for 83. I couldn't stand him. He couldn't stand me.
Right.
83, 84. Talked about him fight. When he was junior lightweight, moving up to fight me. Then he became a lightweight.
Yeah.
He was we basically had a deal before the Bramble fight.
Right.
First Bramble. Mm-hmm. We had a deal in place, and we were going to pay Bramble step aside money, which was common then.
Sure, absolutely.
Step aside, and then he fight the winner.
Right.
But the dude was pressed the WBA. To put the pressure, the WBA said, if you don't fight Bramble, we're going to strip you of the title. Well, the title's been everything then. Right. They don't mean nothing now. They mean everything then.
Exactly.
And so, and if I'd have thought more like a businessman, I said, I'll never forget my manager said, no, we can still push it. I said, no. I don't want nobody saying I ducked that. Right. I don't want nobody saying that.
That's right.
I'll beat this guy, then we'll go right to Camacho.
Right.
It didn't happen. I thought more like a fighter instead of a businessman.
Right.
But and then when we did fight eventually, we did fight. It wasn't a great fight. It was a good fight because all he did was run.
That's all he did. But
it was a good fight. Yeah. But I beat him.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And even after the fight, he said on Spanish television, tell Jay, my primo here, listen to it. He said on Spanish television, he said, yeah, I lost, but they gave it to me, so I won.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
But here's the other thing. You know what? I used to see Camacho at these, like I said, at a lot of events. Me and him got to be good friends.
That's good.
And you know what? Last time I saw him again, we gave each other a hug, and if I could ever do something for you, last time I saw him, when I heard he passed, I was heartbroken. Yeah. Because he was a funny guy.
Yeah.
I enjoyed his company.
Yeah.
We got to be friends. And I enjoyed his company, and I was heartbroken. Then he passed.
Yeah, that was tragic. Then you stepped away from the ring, and you came back. Yeah.
I was in Living Hall. I was in California. I was acting.
Right.
Before the Camacho fight, I was doing an off-Broadway show. I was acting in an off-Broadway show after the Camacho fight. I said, "Come, yeah." I'm sorry. Not Camacho. I was doing an off-Broadway show, and they offered me, come to me and said, "Would you fight Greg Hagen?" I'm acting. I'm enjoying this. I'm an actor in the theater. And so we're doing the show, and then all of a sudden the promoter come to me, the New York promoter, would you be interested in fighting Greg Hagen? Now, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm acting, I'm enjoying this. It's not a physical thing. I want to know if I can still compete. I want to know if I can still get it ready, get up physically, mentally, emotionally for a fight of that type of fight. So I said, yeah.
Sure.
Thought Greg Hagen, tough guy, can't punch much, takes good ass kicking. Yeah, I'll fight him. Yeah. Because I'm thinking of back in the day when I could fight, I'd have kicked his ass. I'd beat his ass.
Yeah.
But this is different now.
Yeah.
So now, I fought Camacho a month before I got married to La Cubanita. Yeah, the Cubanita. And so now we have my son's born in November of '91, Thanksgiving morning, and I go to training camp, and I got my second child, and now I go to training camp early February. The fight's April 3rd, and I'm away in training camp, and when I used to go to training camp, I used to love going to training camp. But now I'm in training camp, and I used to go, Dale, I used to go with the attitude, get in the ring with either you're getting carried out or I'm getting carried out.
Right.
One of us is getting carried out tonight.
Yeah.
But now my attitude was during training camp, please, God, don't let me get hurt. My wife, my babies, they need me. Yeah. So, I was beat long before I got in the ring.
Right.
And so it was a great training camp, but training camp's a dress rehearsal.
Right, exactly.
And so we went to fight. I'm in the dressing room, and I told Chuck Fagan, I said, Chuck, I don't want to be here tonight. I don't want to do this.
Wow.
He said, man, it's a hell of a time to tell me no.
Wow.
And so I can tell you things from my first fight, my first fight, second fight. I can't tell you nothing about that fight. The walk from the dressing room to the ring. I was dead man walking. So the only good thing that come out of that fight, the one good thing, and it's the only good thing, is that it resolved it for me. No more what ifs.
Right.
No more what ifs.
Yeah.
Ego, ego got me in that fight. And Del, ego gets your ass kicked in life and in love. Ego gets your ass whipped. And that's what it was. And I got beat the way I should have.
Yeah. I'm
I'm not Ray Leonard. I'm not the guy that got the gifts, physical gifts that can be away for years and come back, and move around for 2 or 3 rounds, get acclimated. Me, I got to jump on you. If you ain't used to getting hit, man,
Sure.
It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyhow, that happened, and it worked out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
It worked out the way it's supposed to.
I was, like I told you before, Ray, I followed your career. There was one guy that always wanted to fight you, and I would have loved to have seen it. A lot of people don't know it, but his name was Kenny Bang Bang Bogner. That would have been. I
got to tell you, Del, I have looked at people say, you have any regrets, your career? I said, yeah, I have a couple. I didn't fight Camacho when we should have fought. Yeah. I would love to fight Aaron Pryor. I got good friends with Aaron. I loved Aaron. Right. Trust me, it would have been. But I just being in the ring with such a great like that would have been honored. And I thought, but the other one I said is not fighting Kenny Bogner. Right. I only had a full out of 2 fights in my career. It was the same guy, Bogner. Naturally, he's going to run his mouth. Right. So first fight, we were in South Africa. We're supposed to fight May 25th of '83. I'm in South Africa for 3 weeks. I'm in Johannesburg training. Sparring partner, shooting Teddy Hatfield from Tennessee boy. Yeah. Actually descended from the Hatfields in the McCoy. Really? Hatfield, Teddy Hatfield. Sorry, yeah. He throws the right hand, catches me on the collar. I go back, I go to throw, I went down like I was shot.
Broke your collarbone.
Collarbone.
Yep.
Doctor said it was 1,000,000 to 1 shot. I'm the one.
Wow.
Obviously. And then Bogner was saying I was making up stuff. I was making it up. Oh, God. And then after I lost to Bramble, we're going to do a tune-up fight. So we're going to fight him in New Orleans at the World's Fair. 2 weeks before I get a little cut on my eye. It seeps a little blood, but it's just not healing the way we want it to. Right. Couple days before the fight, doctor comes in. It was bleeding a little bit. Doctor comes in the day before the fight. Said, "Look, first punch it's going to open up." And he said, "Do you want that to happen?" Because the referees at that time, they were getting panicky. They were stopping fights way too early.
Oh yeah.
Do you want that to happen? The fight with Bramble was already made. The rematch was already made. Right. Do you want to take that chance? And we couldn't take the chance. Sure. Absolutely. And I was so heartbroken because and then again he started running his mouth. Right? Believe me, Kenny Bogner was nobody. I'd have beat his ass. I'd have beat him like I owned him.
And twice on Sunday.
Yeah, man. So that's regrets I have. Man.
Yeah.
Regrets, and I just. But like I said, I mean, I had a good run at it. I had a good run. I'm very proud of my career. Just you do things at the time, and you sit back and say, I had a pretty good career, and I come at the right time.
Yeah.
In the '80s with TV hitting, and I was
great.
contemporaries with Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, and Aaron Pryor, Lex Arguello, and Larry Holmes, and all the great fighters of that. So I'm very proud that I came at the time I did.
Well, Ray, you are one of those icons in boxing that we'll never forget, and not taking away from the guys that are doing it now, but the '80s and the '90s for me was like the best time, for fighters, because there was an urgency to see who was the best, and running fights back to back, and without all these sanctioning bodies and holding belts and doing all these things, or not living by their bylaws in order to make these guys fight, like they should, But Ray, listen, it has been a pleasure. Sorry for the misunderstanding, man. This is
my pleasure. My pleasure. I apologize.
No.
Hey,
You're fine.
Let's run it back another time.
That's right. We'll run it back, and we'll talk about some things. Ray, you are always welcome on Coffee with the Champ. I'll text you later. I need your address. I want to send you something for just being who you are, being a champion in and outside the ring. Much love, much respect. God bless you. When you come to town, call me.
I'll make you a call.
All right.
And make me see me, and I get to meet Primo, my Primo Jay. Oye, Primo, ¿cómo está?
Bien. Ray, all the love in the world. God bless. You take care. Thank you so much. All right. God bless. Bye-bye.